Kamau stood in the chamber, the weight of Darius's defeat still heavy on his shoulders. The laser sword in his hand hummed softly, its neon green blade casting an eerie glow across the ancient tomb. The chamber fell silent, save for the faint flicker of holographic symbols on the walls. Darius lay unconscious at his feet, his cybernetic armor sparking from the blows of their final clash. Kamau had won the fight, but his victory felt hollow. Outside, the real war was waiting. The ground beneath Kamau trembled, and the rumble of distant machines echoed through the desert tunnels. Airships, drones, and foot soldiers of the New Order were closing in, ready to seize the power of the sword and exploit the neon veins that ran beneath the earth. Kamau's heart raced as he realized the magnitude of what was happening. The New Order was not just after the sword. They intended to strip the planet of its last remaining resources, pushing Earth to the brink of extinction. Kamau moved swiftly, sheathing the laser sword and retrieving Darius's discarded weapon. He wasn't going to leave it behind, not when it might still be used against him. His footsteps echoed as he sprinted back through the neon-lit corridors of the ancient ruin, his mind racing with the decision that awaited him. The moment he emerged from the tunnel, the bright desert light nearly blinded him. The entrance to the tomb was now a war zone. His compatriots, fighters from the Resistance, old friends and those who had once shared his vision of a free world, were locked in brutal combat with the New Order's forces. The sleek, black-armored soldiers of the New Order swarmed the battlefield, their advanced weaponry flashing in arcs of deadly energy. Hovercrafts circled above, firing neon blasts into the sand, while giant mechs strode across the dunes, crushing everything in their path. Kamau's eyes flicked from the battle to the distant horizon. Massive drills and machines were already being lowered into the earth, ready to tear apart the desert and drain it of its glowing neon veins, the lifeblood of the planet. If the New Order succeeded, it would mean the death of Earth itself. The natural balance, already on the verge of collapse, would spiral into chaos, leading to the extinction of humanity. Kamau clenched his fist around the hilt of his neon green sword. This was not the life he had sought. He had trained in the shadows, honing his skills in silence, believing that his fight was a personal one, against Darius, against the wrongs done to him. But the truth now stood before him, undeniable. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about the survival of everything. He scanned the battlefield and caught sight of Aquila, his oldest ally, battling fiercely with her dual blades against a squad of New Order soldiers. Her eyes met his for a brief moment, and in that gaze, Kamau saw the hope that still flickered within her, the belief that he could be more than just a fighter. He could be a leader. But would he? The thought made Kamau's breath catch. He had never wanted the mantle of leadership. He had never desired to be the one people looked to in times of crisis. But destiny had a cruel way of pulling people into roles they didn't seek. Suddenly, an explosion shook the ground, sending sand and debris flying through the air. A column of smoke rose from where one of the Resistance's last tanks had been destroyed. Kamau's comrades were faltering, and the New Order was pressing forward, relentless. If he did nothing, the New Order would win. They would strip the planet bare, taking its resources and leaving nothing but a dead, scorched shell behind. Kamau's eyes narrowed. This had gone far enough. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the sword pulse through him. The power was unlike anything he had ever known. Light, energy, and purpose all fused into one. He could feel the hum of the planet's dying neon veins resonating with the sword, as if the Earth itself was calling out for a savior. And that savior had to be him. With a flash, Kamau activated the laser sword, the neon green blade crackling with electric energy. He stepped forward, moving with the speed and precision of a shadow, his form a blur against the desert sands. The New Order soldiers turned, recognizing the glow of the legendary weapon. But they were too slow. Kamau leaped into the fray, his blade cutting through the ranks of the New Order like a storm. Each strike was deliberate, each movement calculated. The sword cleaved through armor, disabling machines and scattering soldiers. Kamau was a force of nature, unstoppable, the embodiment of the planet's last hope. The tide of the battle began to turn. His comrades, seeing him take the lead, rallied behind him, pushing back against the overwhelming force of the New Order. Aquila fought by his side, her eyes flashing with renewed fire. But the battle was far from over. Overhead, the New Order's flagship hovered ominously, its massive cannons trained on the battlefield below. Kamau knew that if the ship fired, it would wipe them all out, and the last chance to save Earth with them. He had one option, one desperate gamble. "Aquila!" Kamau shouted over the roar of the battle. "Get everyone out of here, now!" But Kamau, she started to protest. "I'll handle this," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Trust me." Without another word, Kamau sprinted toward the heart of the battlefield, the flagship looming overhead. He could feel the energy of the sword building within him, a connection to the neon veins beneath the earth. He didn't know if it would work, but he had to try. With a final desperate leap, Kamau plunged the laser sword into the ground, driving it deep into the earth. The sword flared to life, its neon green light spreading through the sands, connecting with the neon veins below. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a blinding flash of light, the desert erupted. Neon energy surged from the earth, blasting upward in a torrent of pure power. The flagship overhead was hit by the explosion, its systems overloading as the raw energy of the planet tore through its circuits. The ship shuddered, then exploded in a brilliant blaze of neon fire. The New Order's forces, disoriented and weakened, began to retreat, unable to withstand the unleashed power of the planet itself. Kamau stood at the center of it all, his hand still gripping the sword as the neon energy crackled around him. He had made his choice. The planet would not die. Not today. And as the dust settled and the last of the New Order's forces vanished over the horizon, Kamau knew that this was only the beginning. He was no longer just a lone warrior. He was the sword bearer, the one who would lead the fight to save Earth from those who would destroy it. And he was ready for whatever came next.